All right, everybody. Hello. Good morning to those who may be watching. Welcome. This is the Policy Committee of the Board of Education. It is Friday, September 18th, 2020. Our next scheduled meeting for this committee is October 23rd, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. We'll go right to the agenda. Members present and Katie Stein, who is zooming in. I'll presume that you have read the cover memorandum. So let's go to the first policy, C19 policy concerning temporary policies and regulations related to the COVID pandemic. I think it's rather self-explanatory. The overall idea or thought behind the policy is to give the board the ability to create specific COVID-related policies. This isn't new or different in this policy other than giving us the authority and policy to make these special policies. As I'm sure you noted from reading it, any of these policies that we might create related to COVID will have the COVID-19 designation, and they will automatically cease July 1st, 2021, unless we, in essence, reauthorize them. So any questions concerning this policy?
No.
Go ahead. Nope. All right. Then we'll move on to policy C-19-01, policy concerning use of face coverings in school. This codifies really a practice that obviously has been going on since we went to the hybrid environment, and then will continue when we go full-time, presumably on the 29th. Are there any questions concerning this policy? Okay. My two quick things. I know where it says we will provide face masks, the district will do that. So currently the schools and the buildings are all ready and they have face masks to provide, correct? Okay, and then I read where there be admin regs and protocols developed by the superintendent's office. I imagine those would relate to exactly how you deny access or how you ask people to leave the buildings, especially with regard to children. I'd imagine we would do that in a safe way, and no one is kicked out or asked to leave till someone can pick them up, and that will be in the admin regs, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was my only.
Currently we have those practices in large part already in the reopening plan already designated. So it's a matter of those would be the regulations that we would be pertaining to.
Can I ask a question on this? The only area that I think isn't necessarily addressed by this are athletic teams. And are we requiring, for instance, now that some sports are playing, are they required to wear masks on sidelines? Like, do we have authority, or how are we treating athletics now that we're going to have kids on fields? I mean, they will be outside, but are there any sort of regulations regarding mask wearing, during practices, games, et cetera?
So we would be complying with some of the CIC regulations regarding to athletics. And so, for instance, I believe it's the volleyball. There's requirements that when you're inside, you're wearing some of the masks. So we would be just deferring to those, Katie, at this point.
Do we want to refer to that at all in the regulation, or no?
Yeah, that might be.
I kind of think for consistency, it might be good to put a reference that, whatever the CIAC guidelines are, we would adhere to those for athletics.
It's a good point.
So would that point expand to extracurriculars such as theater, band, music? I mean, do we just need to carve out athletics? Do you feel everything else is covered within the overall policy around school-based clubs, that type of stuff?
So,
Well, the way I read the policy, it's effective in district facilities. So an auditorium would be a district facility, so it would be automatically
So would the
Applicable.
so would the stadium.
that is correct, although there is language that says subject to the regular social distancing reg. So I imagine if you're in a stadium, and I think right now the practice or the policy is not to allow fans. So I don't think that's an issue, but certainly as regards to players, I think if your team, by this policy, if your team is one where your teammates are gathered closely on the sideline within 6 feet, you're going to be required to wear the mask.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I just might argue, Katie, I hear your point. I think if we start specifying SEAC and then we have to specify the rules of the debate team and then we have to have the rules of the club sports, and then we're going to have a long list. I think if we leave this broad, just to administrative, guidance within the facilities, I think that covers everything. I'd hate to then have to make sure we got every single item ticked or every single organization,
Good point.
at least on a policy level.
Okay. All right, if nothing further, those are good comments. We'll move on to item 3, policy 4000-C19, Families First Coronavirus Response Act Leave. This codifies existing federal regulations that were developed because of COVID. My only question, I thought I saw that it would come up for renewal, or it's only effective from April 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. So
Correct.
would we have to then reauthorize this policy after that date?
So if they do extend it, then we would need to extend this as well.
Okay, so we'll make a note of that. Was anything else that anybody spotted? Any questions? Okay. Good. On to item 4, revisions to policy 1075C-19, green cleaning programs. As opposed to the earlier policies, which are actually new and bear the C-19 designation, this is a revision of an existing policy, although this change comes within the C-19 penumbra, if you will. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It allows for the use of cleaning products by definition that weren't part of our original policy. Do we have any questions on this? All right. And then our final policy is also a revision. It's policy 9310 with the C-19 designation, meeting conduct. This allows us to, as board members, attend through electronic means, also some specifications with regard to meeting conduct within district headquarters. It really codifies what we've been doing in essence since March. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about that? Dave?
I just had a question on this one as it dealt with the meeting conduct in 1A, the additional language at the end. We refer specifically to COVID here. Since we've had policy 9310 in existence for a while, does this also come off at the end of June or July 2021, or does this remain as part of policy 9310?
I think if the board approves the enabling policy, I think all the C-19 designations, wherever they may lay within any particular policy, would come up for renewal at June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarification. Appreciate it.
And my only clarification question is, so if a board member decides that they can't attend for a non-COVID related reason, so let's say you're on a vacation or you have a home emergency or a work emergency, under this policy, you can watch like anyone else, but you wouldn't be counted for quorum purposes, or am I not reading that
So I
correctly?
think that under this policy, anytime a board member, until June 30th is remote, they would be allowed to participate and count for a quorum.
Okay, all right, very well. I mean, I just thought,
Yeah.
as board members, we'll want to know we want to know that. I think, the purpose is COVID, but then this is also a tool that can help in other emergent situations. All right. That is it in terms of policies. Unless there are any other questions, I'll ask if there is any public comment.
Just a quick,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Dave.
I think in terms of the issue of whether participation until the 2021 is allowed and that would count under these rules for COVID, I think there were some questions as to whether we could have electronic participation under the old rule. And I know we never really addressed it. It wasn't our practice, but it wasn't explicitly excluded from the way I read it. Or
Right, so the old policy only provided for telephonic participation and
Okay.
the board member wouldn't count as a quorum, but there are boards that do allow
Okay.
participation electronically.
thank you very much.
And there's certainly something, if it's the will of the board, it's certainly something that we could look at to, extend beyond COVID if we, or the board deems appropriate. Dr. Hatley.
I probably should have just mentioned this before in Marge's preamble, but it's probably useful just for a wee bit of context to why these ones, what's coming. I just think that would be, if you wouldn't mind, just even though you've read this, Marge, if you could just sort of editorialize a little bit, maybe just for the public too, just that this is why we're starting with these and other ones to come and that type of stuff.
Right, so Shipman and Goodwin at the beginning of August sent a list of model policies that would address some of the issues of COVID. We chose these because these really are codifying for the most part practices that we've already done. The face mask is particularly urgent because we need to give people notice if we're going to use the policy and enforce the policy. Shipman and Goodwin thought long and hard about whether districts needed a mask policy, but eventually decided based on the governor's guidance that they do. The green cleaning, we've actually always had the right to use those sanitizing, but we wanted to make it clear that we were doing it. The next policies on the page 2 of the memo are use of school facilities, visitors, volunteers. It gives the administration the right to limit volunteers, visitors, and the use of school facilities. I know that Ms. McCammon yesterday asked about student attendance and truancy. We're waiting for an update from Shipman and Goodwin to codify the guidance that the superintendent received recently. Physical exams and screenings, Alicia Casucci, our Director of Nursing Supervisor, is here. We've already allowed flexibility to people, but we would like to codify that as well because they're having trouble getting the wellness exam, and then transportation and student discipline. If there are other policies that have come to mind, we'd be glad to consider those too, whether COVID related or not.
Okay, very well. The policies that are on the second page of the memo, I know that you had sent the full panoply of Shipman policies. They're more than these. These are just the ones that are that Shipman sent over. These are just the ones that
So
you think
there are two about the use of computers that I
Right.
wasn't sure added anything, but we could discuss that and discuss it with the lawyers. It was
No, that's fine. This is, since we mentioned it, now, will the memo be posted? Will this be a public document ultimately?
yes, I think it should have been attached to the
Yes.
agenda.
Okay,
Yes.
well, just for people who are watching at home in effort to be transparent, what we're talking about is policy 1200, 1225, 1250, 5130, 5340, 5220, and 5395. So those will be a focus at our next policy meeting. And obviously, we as a board review and look at policies and see where they need to be adjusted where applicable, not just when Shipman and Goodman sends over model policies. So with that, is there any public comment?
There is.
Okay,
Good morning. If you would like to speak during public comment, please click the participants icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Next, click the raised hand option. You will notice a blue hand icon appear in the upper corner of your screen where your face, name, and/or number appears. When it is your turn to speak, the facilitator will identify you and announce that you are unmuted for public comment. Once recognized and unmuted, please state your name and address. You will have up to 3 minutes to comment. Dawn McIntyre, you are recognized and unmuted.
I'd like to speak specifically about the CDC's strong recommendation that there needs to be 6 feet social distancing.
Could you just, I'm sorry, could you just give us your address, please?
25 Driftway Lane in Darien.
Thank you.
I have emailed and spoken specifically about who the appropriate medical advisors might be. Perhaps a viral infectious disease specialist, a pediatrician that is connected with the Yale School of Medicine, advising many of our schools in the area. The current advisor, medical advisor, being only a pediatrician, I don't feel is the right person that should be advising. I'd also like to have specific sense of what has the board and the district done in an effort to look at how we can accommodate 6 feet social distancing, which is the strong recommendation of the CDC, which is what our teachers have been requesting be looked into. We are outside of the what our neighboring communities are doing. And I feel that we are unnecessarily putting ourselves at risk. It's very possible that with the less than optimal guidance medically, that you deferred to the 3 feet as being okay. It is not comparable and it is not safe. Even Fauci and any medical professional you speak to will tell you that there is absolutely no way for us to know that our kids are safe or anyone is safe by all going in the schools. I think we need to be listening to our teachers. And I think we need to hire the right medical advisors. And it's not too late. We have lots of spaces around Darien, the town hall building for one, the senior center for two. And we should be looking at, empty vacant commercial spaces. I believe each principal needs to work with each classroom in their school, determine how many bodies can fit in their classroom with 6 feet social distancing. We need to look creatively at the individual school spaces and see if libraries, lunchrooms, music rooms can be converted. And then when we see what's left over, so that every child every day can be in school with 6 feet social distancing as a team, there should be a task force, or I'll raise my hand to work with commercial real estate and see what it looks like from a budget standpoint. So for instance, by example, if Tokenique School determines that they can accommodate this 6 feet social distancing, but only for grades K through 2 in their elementary school, then maybe we need to look at grades 3 to 5 being relocated to a separate building, together with maybe Ox Ridge's grades 3 to 5. But there's significant concern about safety right now and excellence in education. It also looks very bad for our town. Continue to be presenting publicly that all safety considerations and the best academics have been put in place. Unfortunately, we think we're failing on that level, and I want to see us work together because everybody I know is intending to see our community succeed. Sometimes we just don't look a little deeper, and I think we need to look at additional space. Thanks.
Thank you. And just for people watching at home, like our full board meetings, public comment is for your comment. We cannot respond to it. So that does not mean we endorse or dispute the comments, but we certainly are mindful of them. With that, are there any other, or is there any other public comment?
No more raised hands.
All right, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dean, Mr. Brown, I think we're all in favor. Katie, thanks for participating.
Nice to see
And
you all.
good to see everybody. And we are through. Thanks.